Yeah, it's a club called Hawk Swimming in New York.
Okay.
Yep. So it's a small club team in New York, and I coach high school club swimming right now. I coach college for 3 years at the Division III level, and
Okay.
swam mid-major Division One at
You swim at UMass, right?
I swam at UMass. Yep.
Yeah, at our conference. Yeah. Because like, I remember when I listened to Brian's podcast with you,
Yeah.
and then I went to the dig, and that's why they use swim in our conference. Cool.
Yep.
Which,
Yeah. So
unfortunately, they moved
went there.
but,
And, yeah. Now UMass is no longer in the A10. They're in the what is it? The
Missouri Valley and MAC.
Missouri. That's what they split. So the women.
Up, yeah. For them, for the swimmers, it's fine because it's a split program, right? As far as I know,
they are. Yeah.
Diving is not. So they happen at the same time.
Oh man, and they're at different places.
Correct.
Oh, that's a challenge.
Yeah, they had that. Yeah, so I was at Ball State, and Jay had to do that this past weekend. They had to go to men's MVC, and then women's went to MAC, which is probably terrible to be a part of.
Oh man,
yeah,
because because I saw that UMass is now in Ball State's conference because they were. I think they finished right next to each other, but yeah, man, I love the A10 conference. I was sad for UMass that they left that conference because that's a great conference. But
UMass and GW were the only GW now is the only one left of the original A10 conference.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
it's not. What about St. Bonaventure?
I don't think they were original.
They weren't original. Okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
50 years ago.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah. And you guys, so speaking of A10, Atlantic 10, so you guys won again on the men's side, and then you were second overall on the women's side?
Yeah.
Okay.
We won on the men. A couple hiccups, but we relays, but two pretty dominant. I think we won by 200 something points.
How many in a row is that on the men's side?
6.
6 in a row. Wow, that's incredible.
And 9 out of the last 10.
Wow. 9. Oh, because that's right. I was there the year that George Mason won. It was kind of like an upset year. Obviously, you weren't coaching then, but I remember that year. I think that was the little blimp. But yeah, GW has always been the dominant force in the A10. I think you can speak on this, but I remember always looking at the international poll that GW had made a real impact. I felt in the landscape of the A10.
Yeah. And it is true. And then again, and St. Bonnie's doing a good job on that too. But it is we have overall between all the men and women, I think we have 14 or 13 internationals with 11 different countries, something like that. So it's a good pool. Yeah, but it just it's the reflection of what the school is too. It's the same thing. It's the student population here is the percentage is kind of the same than what we have.
I gotcha. Yeah. Well, we can touch more on that. I'll do a quick intro, and then we can get rolling. So, so good. So, welcome to another episode of the Get Out Swim podcast. I'm your host, Seamus D. Quinn. This is my co-host, João Mescalote. And today we're joined by head coach of GW Swimming and Diving. Today's guest is Chico Rego. Chico, thanks for hopping on.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, awesome. So we were just talking about A10, the Atlantic 10 conference, a conference that you coach in. Your men's team just won their 6th title in a row, and the women just narrowly, it seemed right, got second place, and probably a great battle. But talk to us about how everything kind of came together at the Atlantic 10. What were some big highlights for you as a coach in that meet, and talk to us about that.
Thanks again for having me here. It is a bit bittersweet, right? Because you have the men doing that well, and then the women falling a little bit short. It was funny because we got second by 27.5 points, which was the same margin that we won last year. So it was kind of even more. It was you are one good performer away of making another title, right? And then But overall, I mean, I couldn't be more proud of them because they put up a good fight on both sides, right? Like, and then we had a couple hiccups in the beginning of the meet because like our 800 free relay broke the conference record but got EQ'd. And then like we went on the second day like a little bit, like a couple points behind, but for the men, but on the end of that night, like we were able to be fine. It was pretty fun. Like talking about highlights of the meet, like we were able to put 6 guys up on the 200 IM final. So it was kind of nice. Yeah, we have like everybody going 147 or faster. And then like it was a good dominance on the IM events, and then like 200 breaststroke we won 1, 2, 3. And then like the relays were fun. And then the good thing is kind of like there is competition, right? Like, I mean, we had pretty significant depth, but like it's not that like we are winning every event or anything like that. Which, I mean, as a competitor, you want a bit of that so your people don't get complacent. You know, like your people are kind of like they look into it, and then it's like, all right, yeah, they're coming for us, so we better get on our toes. So like it's never gonna be easy. And then on the women's side, it was the same. We were like one girl short, like one lady short of a full roster. We had a couple injuries, a couple red shirts during the year. So, and our roster were really small. So we had like, because in the A10, you can have 18 scorers, divers count as a third. So your full roster would be 17 swimmers, 3 divers. We had 16 swimmers and 3 divers. So, and still being able to pull that out, it was pretty significant. And then the thing that was most proud of them too, like the ladies came together pretty good, you know, like through the meet, like, and then as the days went by, they started fighting like more, you know, and that's why we were able to close that gap so much. And again, it was something that happened throughout the season, right? Because since October, since the dual meet tournament, like we didn't have basically a full roster. We were like 6 down against Navy. We were like 7 down against Penn State. We were like 5 down against William Mary. So, and they were always able to put some fight on and then even win a couple of the dual meets without that many people out. So it was kind of fun that like this reflected on a conference. Of course, that we would love to win, but like looking back now, it's kind of, man, they did everything that they could. You know, it's not like there was a slack on performance or anything like that. Like they delivered how much they could. And on the man, of course, like it was good. The guys, they create their own goals in terms of like, how do we want to go about this? And this is what we want to do, you know, and like the 6 guys on the A final was a collective, like, let's do this together. And it happened. So it was pretty good. And I mean, having 2 people qualify for NCAAs, one of the guys, one of the women, it was good through the new standards, right? But like it was pretty good. And seeing the conference being able to put, like, I think we had in total be like 4 people going to NCAAs. Like it's pretty good for the conference to have the possibility to and have this conversation of like you can make 2 nationals out of here as well. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's exciting. Who made it to nationals? What did they qualify in for you guys?
Holden Thomas on the man, like, cause he was the first one. He went. It was funny because like he went 45.99 in the morning under the standard, and then like celebrated so hard, like kind of like bust his shoulder a little bit on the celebration, and then went at night, went 46.2, and made it on that because he went under the cut by like 0.3 or something like that. But he didn't know that he needed to win under the cut at night. So the celebration in the morning, it was kind of like he thought he was in, and he was like, dude, no. Good thing that he didn't know, because probably like the pressure would be worse at night. So, but he pulled it off. And
That's
then
funny.
and Ava Topolowski on the mile, which she went faster in mid-season. She swam a little bit over than what she went in mid-season, but like she was someone that qualified in 2024 as well. So her second appearance at NCAAs. So yeah, so those are the 2 that qualified.
That's exciting. Yeah. You spoke on the kind of like it's exciting to see the conference pull together more national qualifiers. So from your perspective, what's your opinion on kind of the new format and how the NCAA like landscape has changed a little bit? And obviously we've been hearing stuff about B finals, like that being kind of a shame and stuff, but I'm curious as a, as a coach in D1 mid-major, what's your perspective?
Mm-hmm. I think I agree with a good amount of people in terms of the B finals. I think maybe there could be a way around it, for Sue being able to have a swim. My take on that is kind of like, I get what the CSA is doing in terms of like for the TV, and even like my confusion is like every night you go in and then you got to know what the B final did before you knowing kind of like what the final's going to go on to follow up on the scores and everything. But I mean, first and foremost, like it's important that we're trying something, right? And this is the most thing. Like if you, in my academic background is exercise science, right? And then when I was doing my master's in Auburn, like any professor out there would say that the hardest people to work with are swim coaches because we don't change our ways. Like you can ask any exercise scientist, like they're always going to say the same thing. Like we don't change our ways, and it's kind of true. So it's good that we're trying something, and if it doesn't work, like the CSCA said it, like we'll reevaluate and figure it out, like and try to make it better. I am not only because I'm in this position right now in a mid-major, but like regardless of anything, I am very fond of the automatic qualification because, I mean, this was the thing here. Like whenever my first year here that we won and came back, and then we didn't qualify anybody for nationals, but the people in the department is like, how come we win conference and nobody's going to nationals? I'm like, yeah, swimming is different because a lot of the other sports out there, especially the bracket sports, like you win conference, you win. So having this, like you win, and you are in, it's something positive even for the sport to be able to explain for the layman, because like our sport is, and that's what I say, like I understand when people say like, oh, you're going to leave the fast people behind. But in my head, like the time is just a unit to measure who is 1, 2, and 3, who is first, second, and third. Because if you go head to head, like on the essence of the sport is like who touched the wall first, regardless of the time, like the time is just like how we're measuring this. So I don't think the automatic qualification is as bad as like some people are portraying it to be. And I do think that like diversifying and putting other schools out there and giving the chance, it is important. And that same thing, like I do think that might create for example, like one of our kids that made it, like when he gets there and look at it, it's like, hey, maybe I can be part of it and underscore next year and change the mindset of the training for that. Giving that opportunity to see, because if not, it's always this thing that's kind of like untouchable. And then like I have a firm believer that like someone can go like anybody that we recruit, right? They can go like a 4,700 backstroke out of high school or like a 5,300 breaststroke out of high school. I don't think there's much limit for that person, because you got to be pretty talented to be able to go that fast, that young. So it might be the drop on the bucket for someone to come out and say, yeah, I want to do this. And then drop from like a 45.99 to a 44.1 and be able to score the next year just because they're going to work even harder, So that's my perspective on it, like, and again, I can go on and on about it. And I like the discussion. And again, all the points that I've been putting out there are valid, like I don't think anybody is wrong in any way, but like it is important that we are trying something, like we are experimenting with a change, and if it doesn't work, we figure out something out, but like it was going on the way that we was going. I'm not sure if we would have a too long of a future.
Wow, that's interesting. I love it, man. I think I've been thinking very similarly. I think the main point there you brought up, which is so important, is just at least we're doing something different, right? Like we always hear a lot of complaints and a lot of opinions here and there. We should do this, we should do that, and guess what? They took action and they're doing something, and they're coming up with something. Maybe it shapes itself as we go, but when I finished college in 2018, which is not that long ago, we still had to do prelims for relays at NC2As. And guess what? They changed that, and obviously that was more of like a positive change for everyone because it was one last event that people had to do. But the only way to figure that out was by removing it and seeing what the format looked like. And yeah, I'm totally with you. Like I think it builds a little more of those mid-major teams, smaller teams, gives the opportunities, and at the same time, like you said, like now a kid that would rather walk on at Texas, walk on at Florida, is going to be looking at those mid-majors and maybe reshaping the future of what those programs could look like, because they do have the little higher talent, the little higher, like probably, willingness to work a little harder. And then now they're bringing that with them to smaller teams. So I'm totally with you on that one.
And definitely encourages those. I like that point too. Like, to be able to see it possible for like mid-major schools and to like diversify, because mid-major schools have always like brought one or two at different points of athletes, not every year maybe, but like, they do show up, but to have like more mid-major programs there and representing, it only is going to signify like, hey, we can do this. We can actually be at that top level, even if we're at the lower level of like kind of the times right now. It's only going to encourage the next generation to hopefully like look kind of at more schools as an option, to Zhao's point too. So I'm interested to see how that goes kind of moving forward. But
and I think the Cinderella story is like that's like we won't be able to create a Cinderella story that like a mid-major team come and win nationals. Like this is kind of like a little bit unrealistic for the way the sport is structured now, right, in terms of scoring and whatever. But you can create like this, like which already happens, but like more of those that like the because we diversify recruiting potentially, that people that are going to come into smaller schools and it takes two guys for you to have a top 25 team, on your team. It doesn't take more than that, because like it takes like whatever, I think it's like 80 points or something like this for you to be top 25. It take two good guys, and then you win. So this is like this you score in the Learfield Cup, and for some ADs this is very important, like to have like scoring points on the Learfield Cup. So those are the Cinderella stories that might create, yes, like I'm not hoping to win nationals, but like if I can score someone at nationals, this is big time, for the resources that we have and for everything that we have, because again, it's a David and Goliath fight any time for any mid-major program or fight anytime. There's no way, not only like in structure, resources and whatever. So, but again, I'm bottom line is at least we're doing something,
Yeah.
To
piggyback off that, Chico, I know you're one of the guys on the conversations for the dual meet challenge, right?
Tournament, yes.
Yeah. So the tournament, sorry. And we've had Iago here before a couple of weeks ago, and he gave a little bit of what the tournament is and his perspective on the conversations leading up to developing, creating the competition. Kind of wanted to pick your brain on that. How was that process like for you and bringing GW to that environment as well? How did that go off for you guys?
Yeah, so I think again, like I think our participation on it was part of it, because like it was I was one of the people that came up with the idea, right? We have a group of coaches, and then I have the screenshot of the message. Say it's kind of like we started to play with it. Imagine this, like two pools running at the same time and blah, blah, blah. And the tournament style elimination and this. And then I talked to Cauley, he's at Kentucky now. And then we brainstormed that idea together a little bit. And then when we were talking about it, it's like, we got to put in a place that has like a strong enough swimming community and a structure to do this. And Milana was like, okay, Tech can do it. So, and then we call Iago, and then we brainstorm with him too. And then we spent, I think, a good, like 2 months, like meeting every other week and brainstorming the ideas of all of it, like truly brainstorming, like putting everything out there. And then when we was getting close, like we brought Steve Barnes in, because Steve is very creative as well. And then that's when we came up with the format and the things to be more dynamic and whatnot. So what we were trying to do is, one, again, prioritize the winning, because that's the essence of the sport, right? Who touched the wall first should be for for the bypasser to understand, right, what's going on here, they got to know like, okay, that person touched the wall first. That has more value than anything else, right? So prioritize the winning and make it fast, like short. And one of the things that I think we were definitely able to accomplish the short part, like because all the sessions, all the matches took an hour and 15 minutes at max. So with a 15-minute break in the middle, which for the athletes, it was a little bit brutal because there were some people doing like, we had people on the team that did like 300-500 frees in a day and a half, but some people got faster every time, so, but it was a bit brutal in that sense. But like, if you're not thinking much about the time itself and whatever you think about like pure sheer racing, it is what it is, man. Like, make sure that you go in, you race, go back. And by the time when we put it in, like, is what everybody's like working hard anyway, so make sure you're recovering and ready to hit it again and ready to hit it again. So the idea was that like putting something that was like compiled in a way that could be done fast and would, and then the long term, right? Like if you want to make swimming like a bracket style sport and whatnot, like the initial idea was just do 3 lanes and 3 lanes so you can get regular dual meet scoring style and all of that. And the long term is like, if you can do something that any pool can host this, right? Any person with 6 lanes and 2 diving boards can host this. This can create like a NCAA regionals that like you can go and then you go falling up week by week into kind of like what it is volleyball does and basketball does and all of those sports do. So it's that's kind of like, there is a way to do it, again, it's completely unorthodox. It's completely not related to what we do now, but it is a pathway that you can pick something that's already exists, which is like the dual meet style, right? Because speaking as a foreigner, like, and João will agree with me here, like that energy of in swimming only exists in dual meet. Like you can go any competition anywhere in the world, it is nothing like a dual meet, nothing like a dual meet. So you can pick a product that already exists, right? And then it's getting some traction with like the job that Caio was doing and getting out there and putting people in and getting the head-to-head competition that schools can have, the rivalry. You can pick that and expand it to a way that it is kind of like, let's make a regional with like whatever 8 teams on each of the corners of the country, and then you funnel it down and do like a super regional or whatever, and then you go, I don't know. And even one of the ideas that we have, like we can go with the top 8 teams and we'll go the regular NCAA tournament style if you want to, like with just 8 teams or something. But then you create this like more participation in nationals and that kind of stuff. So that was the big picture idea of it. But overall, it's like, we want to try to do something fast, something that's different, and something that anybody that's sitting on the stands understand what's happening. That's the main thing.
Are you still involved with the evolution of the tournament?
Yeah, somehow. So it's a bit tricky because, like, I mean, becomes a thing for Georgia Tech, right? And then there's a lot of people inside Georgia Tech that kind of like have to have their hands on it. My involvement now is more in terms of like just you talking ideas, but execution itself, this is a lot on Iago. And this year was like that too. Like, I mean, because he was the boots on the ground there and the people who had conversations with the ones that can make something happen at Georgia Tech. So my involvement is just more kind of like Sue talking and all of that. So, and creating the ideas and trying to brainstorm, like, how can we do this better? Like how can we make it more understandable, more accessible, better for the athletes, or more competitive, or whatever that is.
Is there anything you'd change going into next year?
We didn't get much into that because like we are going through hell right now. We're conferencing and everything. So I think there's a couple changes that Iago has already kind of like line up on the trigger for him. But like we've been talking a little bit, but like we're probably gonna get and sit down and see what we're thinking. But ultimately now I understand that ultimately it's like more towards them to kind of like attack to see some of the stuff that they want to do and try to promote the meet better and all of that.
Yeah.
I'll drop this Easter egg right here. I'm also involved in it this year, but I can't say much just yet.
Yeah.
I don't think Seamus knew this one.
I did not know that. That's
yeah. I'll tell you off there.
Yeah.
But Chico, let's dive into your background a little bit, man. You're someone that I've always looked up to, and especially in my coaching career. I don't know if we have that many North Stars as Brazilians coaching in the NCAA level. I think this year, this past 2-3 years, it's definitely started growing more and more. But let's talk about how you got into coaching. Your relationship to swimming, starting in Brazil, and then we can dive a little deeper because I think you have a really awesome story of how you ended up coaching in the U.S. and kind of wanted to dive into that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll start by I was a horrible swimmer. I was like slower than a slow girl. So, and I started swimming late. I was 14, and then some people asked me before, like, why swimming? I think this was the sport that I was involved at the time, right? So, and we had like competitions there, like it was like even like the main stuff, we like a B series type of thing. And I had a group of friends there, and we started all swimming together, taking swim lessons, and then eventually like there was a swim team, and then we're like, all right, let's do this thing, and then start competing. And then this was right around 2003, 2004. So 2003, when Pan Ams in Santo Domingo happened, and then that's like Gustavo Borges was still swimming, Rogério Romero was still swimming, and I started seeing this kind of, man, this is kind of cool. And then 2004, the Athens Olympics was my very first memory, and that's when like when Phelps was first time trying to go for 8 Olympic gold medals, and like Brazil had put a pretty decent team in, but like nobody medaled at that time, but like it was a pretty large team. And I remember going, I got I was 16. I got my election card because you can start voting in the 16 in Brazil. And I walked to the stadium where the trials was happening. And I saw Lucas Salat at the age of 17 qualifying on the 4 IM, like for Athens and all of that. So that started moving me quite a good bit into sports. Like, man, I want to go to the Olympics, right? I want to go to the Olympics. And then I was intelligent enough, like pretty quickly, to understand that swimming wouldn't be, because I didn't have the talent or the speed to do that. So that's what's kind of like an opportunity came for me to start like teaching lessons, right? And in Brazil it's pretty different. Like for you to work with any kind of exercise, you have to have a physical education degree. So I was doing a trade school of like electronic and telecommunications, like at the age of 17, and I'm like, man, this is not for me, man. That's not what I want to do. So I started teaching lessons while doing the school too, and then eventually I had one more year in trade school to graduate with a trade school degree, not only the high school degree. And I dropped that, got my high school degree, and then went to study at physical education so I could start like truly investing on this career. And then right after that, I started coaching. So I started coaching like at the age of 17, which here is normal because everybody coaches the summer league, but there it was like to the state and national level, like that young. So yeah, so like now in October will be 21 years on the pool deck for me.
Wow.
And I'm about to turn 38. So is that math right? Yeah, something like that. And then so I started coaching my friends, the people that were my teammates, and I had one mentor there, right? Like his name is Claudio Morgado. He's big into triathlon. And then the guy who started teaching me. And once I started learning about physiology and whatever, and that's how I ended up developing. And then I move around there in a couple clubs, like some being kind of like just a site for bigger clubs, and eventually move into the 2 of the bigger clubs there with Fluminense, which I spent a year coaching the breaststrokers there. And then I moved to Botafogo it was like the 11, 12 coach there. And in the meantime, this was almost 10 years into coaching, right? Like when this is like already 2014. And then in 2012, I got into the Brazilian Coaches Academy, which was like a course from the Olympic Committee, because Brazil got awarded the games, right, for 2016. So they have all this money, they didn't know what to do with. So they kind of like invested on a capacitation course for coaches. And I was on the first class, which was I think 120 of us. And it was 120 of us, developmental level, high performance level, with 3 sports: track and field, gymnastics, and swimming, because those are the 3 sports that give more medals on the games. So I got in. I was nominated because I didn't have that many accolades at the time to be in, just because I aced the exam, but like the accolades get me back. So, but the Confederation nominated me to get into the course as well. So I was probably the youngest person there, because at the time I'm an idiot. I was like, when I started, I was 24. 24.
Wow.
So, and then it was cool because like it was right after the 2012 games, and Marcus Goto was there, had just coached Arthur Zanetti for Olympic gold on rings. So that was the people that I was around. You know, it was like absurd excellent, and all like the top coaches in Brazil were there too. And then I started getting close with them and increasing the network. Some of them I knew already from the pool deck, but it was cool to get close. That's how I got very close with Ari, that's at Auburn now, and those people so it was an awesome experience. And then on the first year and the second year, they did like they call like an international internship, which was basically they brought like a foreign coach to give like a week of lessons for us. And then on the last year, they brought Brett Hawk, the former Auburn, now with Enhanced Games, and they brought Brett in, and I was already kind of looking into, it's like, man, like it's gonna be hard to get to the games from here, because it's just like it's a very close niche. There's not that many swimmers, and it's just a one way and one not. So I was already kind of like applying for jobs in the US, but nobody will hire a foreigner, you know, like out of the blue like this, and with a broken English and whatever. So I speaking with Brett on a coffee break. It's like, hey man, like I was trying to do this. How do I get there? And it's like, yeah, like it'll be very hard for you to someone hire you out of the blue. And then I'm like, what about as a volunteer? And then I don't think he thought when he said that, but he's like, oh, volunteer is easy. I have a spot for you if you want. And I was like, all right. So I called my mom and said, hey, this dude here said that kind of like, if we can make it happen, like here's a volunteer spot for me. This was Thanksgiving 2014. So November 2014. And for context, like, because I had just got a large lump of money because my dad's life insurance of like 20 years had just came out. So I was in between leaving the country or opening a functional training gym. So, and I had almost like a lease sign and everything. And it's like, you know what? Let's try it out. So I started seeing the things to get in, and then I figured out like I could get into to be on a student visa, could get into the English as a second language program and all that. So I figured out a way to get here legally and kind of like with a path. And that's what I did. I came as a volunteer, and I show up on campus. And then when I don't think Brett knew what to do with me, because he thought I wouldn't come. Like he thought I would not take the opportunity. And he didn't tell me this at that moment. He told me later. And that was it. And I was doing English course for 8 weeks. And I got here like March 7th, was like right before NCAAs. So it was kind of like there is not, I don't even know what the calendar was like. And there was not much, like they were getting ready for NCAAs. Luckily, there was a lot of Brazilians there, like Arthur Mendes, Bia, Travalon, Felipe Lima, Marcelo, Bruno. They were all there. So there was some people that were training for something that was not NCAAs. So I did the English course, and then comes April, Jake, with Swimbridge, Jake Lushan.
Yeah.
He was a GA with him, and he was done. And then I asked Brett, hey, what about this GA position? Like how does this work? And in my head, I thought it was a great assistant coach. Because it was during the summer and Jake and I were helping it out and coaching. So I thought it would be like a grad assistant coach. And then Brett said, oh, get in grad school and I give it to you. And this was April. Like it was probably like April 15th or something like that. So after that conversation, I just went up the ramp because the kinesiology department was right behind the pool. And then I knock on the door of the director of the kinesiology department. And I poke my head in and she's like, can I help you? I'm like, you, Dr. Roto, like Brad said if I get into grad school, I can get a GA position. How do I do that? And then she was like, oh, do you, what is it? Do you have a degree? What is the degree on? So I go, physical education. Like, okay, cool. Let me introduce you to Dr. Crindry. He does like the admissions and whatever. And I talked to him a little bit. And then I did my application. and it was like a month later I was accepted into grad school. And then it was Brad set me down and said, like, listen, I gotta tell you something. Like, when I told you to come, I thought you would not. When I gave you the GA position, I thought you would not get it. So I'm very impressed that kind of like you make this happen. But let me tell you, this is what you're gonna be doing. And I remember this vividly, because it basically picked the trash can. You're gonna be doing the trash. Like, this position is like, you're in the base here. Like, that's kind of like what he said it very nicely. Sound mean as shit what I'm saying right now, but he said it very nicely.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna be learning and whatever. It's like, all right, cool. And I'm like, listen, I've been coaching for 10 years. The fast swimming part, I kind of know how to do that. Like, looking back, like, I know little, but like, this part I have some knowledge to. The business part, I don't know anything about this business here, so it'll be good for me to learn. And it was interesting because like my direct supervisor at the time was the director of operations there, because like I worked under him, and she was younger than me. And then we butt heads a little bit in the beginning, but at some point I'm very grateful for her, because like taught me a lot in terms of like how this thing should be running. And then it's a lot of other things that I do here now, and the way that I put things is from the experience that I get with Stephanie. And that was it. And then basically like I got my degree in exercise science there, like a master in exercise physiology. And it was a GA for 2 years, and then went back to be a volunteer coach after I done with the degree for like basically half a year until I got a job. And I think I did like 36 job applications, and maybe got one on-campus interview with ECU at a time. And Matt and I are still pretty good friends to this day. Like, he's someone we always check on each other. And didn't get anything. And then that's why like took the half year, and then I got a club job with Team Greenville, because at that time then I met my wife, and then we started dating, and then she was about to graduate from vet school, and then we talked places that we would like to go, and it was this opportunity with Team Greenville. And Greenville is awesome. Like, I mean, we love it there. Like, we spent a year and a half there, and I coached club there for a year and a half. And then basically the same thing. Courtney Schilihart comes recruit at TG, and at that time Caio and Rod were there. Rodrigo Quadros and Caio Pumputis were there, and then introduced itself, and then talk about Brazilian recruiting a little bit and all of that. And then in conversation, she talks about it like, oh, we just got a new position approved and blah blah blah. And then she left the pool deck, and then I was thinking about it. It's like, man, this is something that I still want to do, coach college. And I text her. I say, hey, I know you talked, because we exchanged phone numbers because of a recruit and all of that. So I text, hey, I know you talked about like this position. I'm pretty interested in what happened. And then silence. And then a month passed by, and like Neo Versfield left to be an associate head at Georgia. And because Neo was Caio's direct coach and all of that. So then she reached out to me to kind of like, I think, bridge the gap a little bit of kind of like, I'll bring a Brazilian coach in and all of that. And then the opportunity came, and I took it. So, wow. And that was 5 years at Tech. And then I was fortunate that I then got my first Olympian with Caio. And then on the same year, was able to put Batur Alpanoglu from Turkey at the games as well. So didn't get to go to the games yet, but had 3 Olympics actually. Then in 2024, Burke Saka also qualified for the Olympics. So at 3 Olympians now, but still haven't got to go to the games. So that's probably why I assume doing this job, because like maybe I don't know. By the time that I go to the games, I'm like, I'm all right. I'm gonna do something else. I'm gonna cook for someone. I don't know, but yeah, that's basically the story. And then spend like 5 years there, like 4 as assistant, 1 as associate head, and then the opportunity here came up, which was basically something that kind of like I didn't know what was happening at Tech at the time, and then I think my career needed to keep moving forward, and then that's kind of like here the opportunity came up when the job came open, and then like this is the one thing for me, kind of like I was fortunate between Tech and here to like it is a good, like is a good school, so I can sleep soundly knowing that if I messed up and people don't sit fast, at least they're good on the world out there because the degree is worth it, So this was something really important that also did attract me here too. And of course, like the winning and the fast swimming, because like it is what it is. Like here we're not like we have some pretty good performance out of here, because and the willingness for people to be on that level that I'm talking about. I want to put people I want to put people at the words. I just don't want to. I didn't change my entire life. This whole 20 minutes I've been telling this to come here and all right, I have a good paycheck and that's about it. That's not what is happening. It's kind of, because if it was about this, I would work a 9 to 5 and enjoy my kid on the weekends. That's kind of and probably make way more money than I do here. So but it is not about that. It's about the thrill a little bit. But I think 20 minutes. Oh, yeah. Sorry,
you covered
everything.
The exact story. Yeah, I think, which is so important. Like, you touched on so many good things, especially as you mentioned, being from an outside country and looking in. Like, I think I had the same perspective. Like, oh wow, like the NCAA is fast, yards probably is really cool, and you have no idea what it feels like to swim in a 25-yard pool. But it's like, oh, okay, yeah, like this is cool. And then you get here and it's what? Like, we have to do dual meets and it's a short meet and we have to wear Speedos. And it's and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, and then next week we do it again against another, big name school. And but also the perspective that you said as a grad assistant, like, even I guess for me and Shane is like, we swim in the system. We know what it's like to be a swimmer, like, and I always joke about this. Like, when I first start coaching, I went from swimming at an LSU, which is top 15 program, down to like swimming or coaching at a very, very small, like Division II school here in California. And I just remember our first dual meet, the coach giving me the keys to the van and saying, hey, go pick up the van, load it up with, the canopies, go buy the snacks. And I'm like, wait, I'm a coach. What are you talking about? Like, and I quickly realized, like, oh, wow. Like, at LSU, I showed up, got on the bus, got out of the bus. My Jimmy Johns was there waiting for me.
What's your name?
Right. And now I'm like, oh, wow. Like, I think I value that. Like, I love that part of my coaching career where I took the step back to like go and explore what it was like and on the other side. And I think you mentioned that really well. Like, when Brett told you, like, hey, you're gonna start from the bottom, right?
I'll tell you, man, I did like what was it? We're having this conversation at conference, like, what are the most like GA thing that you ever done? And then, bro, I did like the most GA thing I've ever done. I washed golf carts. Like, the golf carts, hey, we have recruits coming, go out. And me, like, my ass, they're detailing golf carts, like whatever, in the back, and like picking up stuff here and there, driving this and that, and then like setting up stuff and whatever. And again, like, all of that, it's valid, because to be frankly honest, there's not that many schools out there that had that structure to have a director of operations, a GA, and whatever. Here, I am sweeping the floor, I am doing whatever. Right. Like, that's what it is, and it doesn't. There's no job too little, like it doesn't bother me. It's the stuff that kind of like, yeah, we got to do it. And in my perspective is like, the little the athletes know, the better we do in our job, right? If you just show up, train and race, like, and that's it, we're doing good, like, so there's parts of it that kind of like everybody can improve a little bit, but like, and if we had more people, would do better. But like, it is the little that they know, the better we do in our job. So
Did you fall in love with the system here, coming from the system in Brazil? And I know a lot of the differences. If you want to touch on some of the differences, but
so the biggest thing here, like, right, that's this is something that Ari and I talked about a lot. Like, the biggest thing here, the system allows me to do what I love and just what I love. As much as like, we might complain about the bureaucracy and whatever, and the paperwork and compliance, recording and all of that, but by the end of the day, I'm coaching. That's all I do. Back home, back in Brazil, it was like from 6 to 10 p.m., bro. At 6 a.m., like, you're doing the double because people are in classroom at 7, so sometimes even earlier, and then you got to work a second or a third job, because if you just try to be a coach, like, you can't make it. So I used to coach and then work on a gym and personal training and all of that kind of stuff. So it was a hustle. There was a period of my life that, like, I was working close to 15 hours a day because of like the commute and all of that. So it was just like used to get home and truly pass out. That was it. So again, the system here, like it's very good for us because like I can just coach, like, and there's the other stuff, but by the end of the day, like I'm trying to do performance. So that's the coolest thing. And again, it's a bit more structured and more it's again like there's so much more resources. Even like even schools like ours, right? If you compare to Brazil, like there's maybe one or two clubs that have the same or more resources than what we have here. So like for the majority of the places out there, like you have everything that you need to develop performance. Everything. You have a 25-yard lane, like a platform with an Olympic weightlifting bar and some plates, and a training room. Like you have everything. You have like the conditioning training, the strength training, and the car shop. They're gonna fix whatever people broken that you have. So that's all you need. So this is like in almost any college of like 90% of them, you're gonna have it because it's the basic. So this is very easy to fall in love with when you come from a performance standpoint and look and like, man, like if you want to come and commit to this, we're gonna make it happen because I make it happen with so much little, so it's kind of fine. So I don't know if I answered your question with that.
Yeah. Oh, that's a perfect way. Yeah.
Keep the main thing with coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us about how your like coaching, I guess, in the US kind of college setting has like evolved from being like at the lowest level of like being a GA, kind of having to learn the business, but also like the difference in coaching, and then to where you are now, being a head coach, being like a leader of a program. What are some things that you've seen kind of evolve?
That's a great question, James. Like, and I'll be honest, I don't think I ever put too much thought into it to kind of like, if I have to lay it out, that's how it looks. But
yeah,
I'll try to walk through. Okay, so in Brazil, like because of the education that we have with physical education, like we're pretty well taught in terms of like and exercise physiology and biomechanics and periodization and all of that. So my brain always operate on that realm, right? Because that's kind of what I know. And that's why my default, yes. So, and again, I was having this conversation with Mike Norman, actually, which is like one of my greatest friend. And I didn't have that many mentors like through my career, like it was a lot of like observation and changing. Not anybody said to look at my plans and kind of like, let's to try it this way. It was a lot of try and error. So when I got here, and even like when I started coaching actually here, when I was coaching in high school in Opelika or whatever, it was still a lot of the stuff that I used to do in Brazil. Spreadsheets and plannings and volumes and this and that and quantifications and blah, blah, blah. So that evolved quite a bit on this past, like whatever, 10 years that I'm 11 years that I'm here. Yeah, actually 11 years and 5 days that I've been in the US. So like and it evolved to a way that's more, I'm way more loose, right? I'm not too like attached and to kind of like the metrics that like there's other metrics that I pay more attention to, like not, and some of them are very subjective. It's like the relationship with the athlete. It's the kind of like what the athlete going to do. And one of the things that I'll be honest, like would help me a lot and change a lot of the way that I coach was when I was working at Georgia, my second year at Georgia Tech. When COVID was one of the greatest things that happened because it gave a good time for me to stop and reevaluate. The first season there, people swam well, but I look back, I'm like, it was not as well that they were showing practice. And it looks like, I think I worked them too hard. And then I was able to change a lot of the stuff. And Caio and I were very good in, hey, I want to do this, trying this out. And then you have to think about this set and then playing it out. And sometimes used to bring something and I look, it's like, I adjusted a little bit. Yeah, let's try it out and work. So there was a lot of this listening to the athlete, and kind of like seeing the like what they respond better. Because by the end of the day, like I can have the best workout on the paper. If the outcome of that workout is not what it's intended to be, it's totally irrelevant. So it was very much to kind of like, and I have a very small group. I had like 10 on the first year, 8 on the second year. So all the metrics and that stuff I used to know from the top of my head for everybody, stroke count for races and stroke rate and like weight on the buckets, all of that kind of stuff. So it was very good and allowed me to be very, like, I used to have one practice every Friday when I was there. That was like on Thursdays, they need to tell me what they want to do or bring it. So I was running like 8 different practices at the same time. But it was pretty cool because like people were being confident because they did the strokes with a paintbrush to paint that practice. So everybody was coming after kind of like very like, I want this, so I'm going to do the master of this. And it was pretty good. And that evolved a bit now in terms of like because I have such a large group, like we have 3 of us here, and we have this past season, we had 38 swimmers for 3 of us. Our distance group was fairly small. And our sprint group is like 13 of them. And I had like the rest of it. So I had like basically 22 people under me. That's a little bit more challenging because to absorb the metrics. And this is something that I'm adjusting, and they're going to be a little bit different for next year because the athletes got to be even more accountable on their metrics, so we can be always evaluating what we need to adjust. And that's a part of the things that I'm trying to teach them more, to kind of like what you need to be aware of, not maybe the time on the clock. It's not what you got to be obsessed with all the time. Have you seen a stroke count? Have you seen a stroke rate? Have you seen kind of like whatever else the metric, your heart rate compared to all of that? Like, is the time going high because of what? Because if you only focus on this metric, like it's too simple for us to tell if you're doing good or bad. And the hard part of it is like with 22, I cannot do that to everybody if they are not aware. Like with 8, it was easy. Like I knew on the day they walk in the pool, I think you should go home today and send them home.
Yeah.
The 22 is a little bit harder. So this is one of the things that I'm involving a little bit more now, and then I'm now like, I'm just having this thought and trying to play with this idea, try to use some of the AI platforms to help with the data, like with the data streamline, because that's the hardest part for us. We have all the systems that can give data for it and everything, but there's nobody to compile it. And then so maybe using a little bit more to help me to kind of like to see like the progressions and the people that are there, like where are they missing? If like, for example, if someone every Wednesday doesn't have a good practice, what is the indicator that we're missing here? Is it a heart rate that like, are we working too hard on the day before? Or where do I need to adjust from whenever it matters? They're able to deliver. So that's, I think, the next step of my evolution as a coach is kind of like try to integrate some more of data analysis with the platforms that are out there, and helping the team and the athletes to compile that data on their own to be then to pick it and put it into a platform or something like this, or even look at it at the naked eye because I can identify anyway, but it's just because it's time consuming to do that. But that's it. And on the business side, it's kind of like it started from zero, right? Because this was just different, but now it's like it's more. And what I try to do is here as a head coach is take it out of the other coaches, some of the stuff that's more like that I don't like. Like, for example, like I hate travel, so I do the travel just because. So I don't know, they might like it, but like I hate it, so someone else might hate it, so I'll go ahead and do that myself, just so they can focus on something else, like stuff like that. So that's kind of like what it is. Yeah,
that's interesting. From a business point, like, do you look at it kind of as like a business, like a small business that you're running, like trying to, stay on top of recruiting and programming and all the things? Like, how do you focus on swimming and the training when your mind is full of all the other stuff? I'm always like,
that's a great question.
Looking at head coaches and being like, oh, it'd be really cool to be a head coach, but also like it is nonstop, so how do you kind of work through that?
And this is something that I am constantly trying to be better at, right? And I know I am not, and this is my second year as a head coach, and I know I am not kind of like perfect yet, on that sense. So I'm trying to be better on that. So basic one, I have 2, like 3 if you include our diving coach, 2 assistants here. Like they're like they work very hard. So sometimes I'm like, man, am I doing enough? Because those guys here seems to be kind of like working their butt off, and then I seem that I'm not doing anything. So but like they are very good in doing a lot of stuff, and that helps. The other part is kind of like try to be organized in terms of like I have a checklist on one of my phones like that I'm always trying to keep an update. I use my calendar a lot so I don't miss on things, and I use the resource. I as much as it might sound a little bit impersonal, I have a Calendly link for recruiting just because it's so much easier. Because like our net, like, man, I think we cast a net of like 300 people per gender. So it is just too many people. So if I'm trying to put on my calendar and see that I cannot keep straight, the calendar at least like take the stuff out. So when people book up to 2 calls, like it's what I'm available to. So those are the things that kind of like help me to keep a bit more straight on that. But you got to use the tools that like business and whatnot have out there, which is checklists and calendars and like trying to be on top and separating times on the day. To this time I'm gonna do this time I'm gonna do this, and then no matter what it is, like put something aside, like it's not a priority right now, I can deal with that later, and be able to organize like what's a priority 1, priority 2. So those are the type of stuff that kind of like I am trying to evolve and be better at. I'll be honest, like I was much better this season than last season, and even though there was a couple things that fall between the cracks, and as an example, like I have all our travel already booked from June, like for everything. So that's some of the stuff like this is out of the plate, like I can't worry about that anymore. I can worry about something else. So, and I'm always trying to find like what is the best way to make the whole machine run right? Do I need to put like a whiteboard that like we have like weekly what we got to do here and there? Do I need to do like whatever it is to be able to everybody to be on top of things, because just 4 of us. So there's a lot happening and so we always got to be on top of things.
Yeah. Chico, what does swimming smart mean to you?
Oh man, that's a good question. I think it depends on the perspective that you want to put that on, right? From a performance standpoint, and of course, like is efficiency, right? Like in trying to figure that out. And that's one of the things that like I'm gonna bring this up, and I started doing already. I saw this reel the other day about how they developed the one hand start on the skeleton. I don't know if you guys saw that. It was basically like the Canadian coach put them on the ramp and said like, figure it out, like come out of there once you have a faster something and figure it out. And that's why they came from both hands to a single hand. And this is something that kind of like I'm trying to think how we can put in the swimming in terms of like, let me give you parameters, and then y'all got to figure out how on this parameter, like you can make it faster on your own, right? And giving them the ability to think through it, because like we are very guilty of like coaches in general to one straight go into workout, like this is it, we're doing this, boom, that's what it is, and 2 like giving too much, which is kind of similar to the conditioning, not separating any time for them to kind of like let them experiment the environment, right? The water, and feel it and do what it is, and trying to figure something out. There's a good time on the season that you can do that, that you can kind of like separate. So that figuring out of the efficiency on their own might be one step to the swimming smart. And of course, like once you figure that out, like now how can I go into and apply in races, because that's where it matters, right? And be efficient into a race. So kind of like you can develop like the fastest, like 200 free, 100 breaststroke, whatever that is. Because like in my head, and which is kind of like by the end of the day, the best average speed is always who wins the race, right? Not necessarily the best top speed. Sometimes it falls to be the same, but by the end of the day, is the best average speed. So if someone can figure out how to sustain the best average speed amongst the field to that distance, that person will always going to win the race. So that's what kind of like once they start feeling that, all right, this is my max for this level, I can sustain this, and understanding their own body, I think that's a bit of the swim smart from the performance standpoint, right? From the coaching standpoint is like creating rooms for that, like not like understanding there's more metrics than a stopwatch, understanding there's more metrics than the time, and then and again, and sometimes like the time I can tell this at conference, like, man, I get this is an American thing, right? And it's the best thing about American swimming. People step up, so you can, like, when it gets to conference, people step up, they swim faster. Like, it doesn't, because there's something there. There's a pride. There's something that, like, it's big. A high school state, man. When I was in South Carolina, high school state was in October, like right in the beginning of the season, and some people could not repeat the time that they went in October after a full season change, just because there was that grit of represent whatever. So this is part of it. So I'm saying that to say that, like, sometimes the smart part can be like, that's okay if the time's not there today. That's okay if some of the metrics are not there today, because at some point we're going to come together. But, like, what are you looking at right now, and what can I do with what I have right now? There are days they're going to send people home. That's fine. But, like, maybe the people cannot do hundreds repeat, but have you thought about, like, doing 25s with a stroke count and see if you can reduce the stroke count, be more efficient or something like that? You know, just be able to break it apart and put it back together in a different way. It might be enough to do something smarter, and you kind of figure something out, you know, and having that confidence, kind of like, yeah, like we can do it this way or whatnot. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's great. That was great. Couple different things. I liked what you said. It's the averages. Like, obviously having top speed's important, but, like, the averages are always going to prevail. It makes me think of when Cam McAvoy said in his after his Olympic final, like, I just had to be kind of average. Like, I had to be kind of like in my median, not my best, because, like, I've just done this over and over and over again. And then also, yeah, like rushing into workout. I mean, obviously, like, especially if you're in a window of like an hour and a half or 2 hours, and you really can't, like, spend time talking and chatting or just, like, kind of BSing. Like, you need to get in and do the workout, but at the same time, like, why not just spend 30 minutes working on, like, streamline or, like, your position in the water, or just, you know, like, I feel like there's always time for that. Like, it's always like the details, the small things that really you're looking for, like, in a race, that, like, oh, that kid's doing that so well at any level. So I think of that even as a club coach, like,
yeah,
the conditioning is going to be there, but
correct.
How well are they streamlining off the wall? How well are they, like, taking a sneaky breath on their freestyle and getting right back into their line? Like, all these little things I'm noticing, like, oh man, I got to be better at that. Like, I just want their details to be right, because I don't care how fast they are at 12 years old. You know what I'm saying? So
correct. To double click on that, it's like, and not only necessarily on the workout, and what I mean by rush to workout, it was even on a season, right? Like, we start like we are pretty much into, like, as soon as we have 20 hours on the clock, we try to swim for 20 hours type of thing. You know, we try to do, like, get into, like, the structure and whatever as fast as you can. But if you plan that, you can kind of, like, and again, technique is extremely important in swimming, but there's only so much change that you can do on a timely manner that would work. But, like, there are some details like that, like, yeah, like a streamline off a wall, man, this is not that hard, because in every practice you do at least 250 of those. So it is something that, like, if you engrave in your brain, change the habit on this, spend 3 weeks to change the habit, and don't worry about the time or something like that. You know, spend 3 weeks, change the habit, and make sure you're doing. And then once even we get into conditioning, like, whenever you're going to 12 100s, instead of doing 12 100s and trying to hit double lows, why don't we do 12 100s trying to hit 7 meters of every wall? And if double lows, when it's October, you know, like, when it's like late September, because there will be a point that you're going to have to hit the time, right, further on. But conditioning just doesn't need to be heart pumping more blood, peripheral, like, adaptations with capillaries and whatever. Conditioning cannot be conditioning of movement, you know, like, let's work on the condition of, like, a better streamline, a kick count, whatever, and all that kind of stuff. So this is the thing that kind of, like, we rush too much into workout in terms of, like, 2050s, whatever it is that we want to do, like the grind, cruel, whatever. But, like, maybe those 2050s that you would do in November would be half a second faster, because you spend, like, 30 minutes on the first month of every Tuesday, like, trying to do a better streamline or do whatever that you come up with to improve a constant detail of habit. Because by the end of the day, it's habit. That's what I do. I heard this here, like, the moment that I stop hitting the time, that I stop hitting the times, I divert to effort. That's what they do, right? They straight up, like, stop hitting the time, they divert to effort. So kick count is off the window, stroke counts off the window, stroke rates out of window. They try, I gotta hit the time. But the reality is, if we're going like, let's put like, even like, if you're going like whatever 20/50s on a minute, and for a girl that want to go like a whatever 147 on a 200 freestyle, if she's holding 30s or whatever, even 28s, that won't do, man. Like, you can put as much effort as you want, because when it comes to the race, that's not what you're gonna do there, you know. So it's kind of like train the technique, the tactics, the whatever, with the conditioning, right? But like, just change what you're looking at. It's okay if the body will be all right if it's swimming for 40 minutes straight, whatever. What is the difference from like 2100s, just to round numbers, 2100s on 2 minutes to 18100s on 210? Like, what is the difference of that? And you give a little bit more rest, so in that time, so someone can focus on more technique, whatever. Eventually you squeeze the interval, because there's that part. But like, if it's important for you to give them more time to be sharper in the beginning, like, what is the cost benefit of that, you know? And then we know we divert to like harder, faster, squeeze the interval, more volume, whatever, and then everything is out of the window. They divert to effort, and then it's so on. So
such a good point.
Good
point. Awesome, Chico. Well, we're wrapping up. Thanks again for your time. One final question: are you a fan of the Get Out Swim? And if so, do you have a memorable Get Out Swim story?
We did do some attack. I never did the one here, to be honest with you, because like, again, I'm guilty to divert to the workout, and here's a little bit trickier too, because like, especially in the afternoons, we run 2 different practices. So if you give a Get Out Swim for one group and not to the other ones, and a Get Out Swim needs to be like on the moment, right? Gotta be right there. So I never do that much here. Again, parts of me, I am a fan, because like, it comes back to the thing I was just saying about conference in high school swimming. Like, you do for a bigger cause, you find an extra energy. But attack, we did one, and then I think Kyle swim whatever, like maybe like a 4700 IM on a brief or some, or put a suit on and did like a 47, something like that, for a Get Out Swim. I can't remember now, but we did something like that. But I don't have any unfortunately, I don't have any memorable Get Out Swim stories.
Oh, no, nothing. Yeah, it's the same. The answers are so similar. It's like, oh, I love the Get Out Swim. I love the idea of it, but I don't really do them that often. I mean, I'm guilty as that as a coach too. I think we always want to do, we want to get through the practices. And I'm trying to think though, anything that, like, let's say, I'm sure your kids went off the blocks and they had some like memorable in practice times. Was there any like in practice workout or set that you had, or even moment where the kids kind of got up on the blocks and like you were just like, oh wow, like we're on to something here, or like they kind of surprised you?
When?
Like, let's say towards the middle of the season, or like when you're starting to like
this year,
you know. Yeah, this year.
Yeah. Yes, like, I mean, more it was more towards now, like into conference, right? This last like 3 or 4 weeks, we were seeing some stuff, and I'm like, all right, like I think we up to something good. Because I'll be honest, we suited up for every dual meet this season, right? And then we created some expectations that were kind of like we were looking, and it's our fault, my own fault. And that's one of the things to clarify. Like, I create expectations. It's my fault. It's not on anybody else, right? So I think, man, I think someone can do this. And then it happened. I'm like, I don't know what happened. So it took a little bit for them to like, oh crap, like this is happening, you know. Like, so in January it started coming up, because it was pretty tough the fall and all the way up to January. And then there was some good stuff happening. There were some people that were kind of like, all right, like we're gonna show off. Like a lot of the freshmen, was some freshmen last time in practice, and then one kid from he came from Texas, Andrews Brooks. He won Rookie of the Year at 810s, and then every time he swam the 2 IM, like, and we did a couple full 2 IMs in practice, it was going like from 149 low, 148, and his best time was like a 149 high coming in, and at 148 low, and then at conference he went 145. So that was kind of like, we started looking and kind of like, all right, man, you up to something, and it was just like, you're going to do good. The matter will be how good. So, and it happened. It killed it. Like, won the 4 IM, got second in the 2 flying in the 2 IM, and a rookie of the year. So
rookie, wow.
Yeah, it was fun.
Nice.
Awesome. Love it. Chico, thanks so much. We appreciate it. And it's been interesting to learn about like your whole story. And yeah, it seems like GW's in good hands with you there, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Hey, if I can leave one thing, like for everybody, it's just like the whole reason I got here, right? Because people didn't tell me no when I asked, and I didn't know what was getting into, right? So like it was like if someone had told me maybe like I would not be able to get into grad school because the deadline had passed, I maybe would have not got to come up to talk to the director. So like it's like
right
until someone tell you that like until you make it or you don't, like keep believing it, and that's basically what it is. It's like I think that's how I got this far. If it is,
well, you said, Brett, that's cool. Like I love that whole piece that you mentioned with like your story, your journey of coming here was like, Brett Hawk obviously like threw out the opportunity, but then he didn't believe that you would do it, and then he didn't believe that you would do the grad position, and it's like you kind of kept just knocking on the door,
being annoying.
I was fortunate enough for him to be reckless generous. Reckless generosity. I had no idea what he was going into. And I did have a conversation with him once. I was like, dude, like, don't do that because this is my life. So anyway, and I do call him every March 7th. I call him. Actually, it's about time for me to call him to thank him for the opportunity.
Oh wow,
awesome.
Cool. Yes.
But anyway,
awesome. Cool. Chico, thank you so much. Good luck at NC2As.
Thank you.
It's gonna be exciting to see the GW logo in there. So I'm excited to see the damage that they'll do. So
we'll see. We're excited to be there, man. That's what it is. And we also go to the CSCA meet in Ocala because that's a fun one too.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool, awesome. Thank you very much for having me here. Like it was a pleasure and a very seamless conversation. I didn't even feel the time passing by. Thank you.
Yeah. That's always the best.